Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Avataravarishthaya Ramakrishna te namaha Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityorama Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Today's topic I have chosen, tackling the problem of stress. Everybody is well aware of this problem. Once you are born in this world, stress follows you. There are so many reasons for that. It's just like weeds coming in the field. They do come, but you have to keep removing the weeds every now and then. Otherwise they become wild and become harmful if you allow the weeds to grow indiscriminately. It blunts the growth of the plants. Same way, human life also has to be carefully monitored. Every now and then we confront with problems. Sometimes problems may be caused by external factors. Sometimes we ourselves cause problems. So problems in turn create stress. Stress in turn makes us lose the balance of mind. We act in an irresponsible way under the stress. Not only that, we commit all sorts of terrible crimes on account of the stress. Recently I read in the Chicago Tribune that some soldiers, American soldiers returning from war, war means 100% stress. Of course, they are able to bear the stress because they are quite young. There is no option. They have to work through stress. But then stress has its reaction. The reaction was, some of the soldiers, when they returned to America, for no reason they went and killed their wives. I couldn't believe. Why should they do? No reason. Madness. So now they have made a rule. As soon as they come back from the war, they will be put into a laboratory. They will have to undergo some treatment. Then when the doctors certify they are in normal condition, then they will be sent back home. So you should understand the gravity of the stress. Gravity. All this is possible because of competition and temptation. All sorts of things are responsible. In a way, we can very definitely say the stress is caused under the influence of Kama, Krodh, Lobha, Moh, Mad, Matsarya. So, with this stress in the mind, with the heavy load of burden in the mind, you want to enjoy peace and happiness. How can you even think of it? Even if you think, it seems it is unreal. You can't get that happiness. It's all simply people talk. Like that they make remarks. Anyway, Sri Ramakrishna has nicely put in one sentence nicely why we are under constant stress and strain. What is the reason behind this? As long as one is in bondage, as long as one is in bondage, one becomes stressful. Anxiety, tension and worries, attachment cause stress and strain. Difficult situations make one stressed. Sri Ramakrishna said, lust and gold is a cause of bondage. It is a bondage that causes stress. Lust and gold alone constitute samsara, the world. It is lust and gold that keeps one from seeing God. Holding the towel in front of his face, Sri Ramakrishna said, do you see my face anymore? Of course not. The towel hides it. No sooner is the covering of lust and gold removed than one attains Chidananda, consciousness and bliss. Sri Ramakrishna said to Surendra's relatives, my advice to you is not to become attached to the world. You may be in the world, carry on all activities, but with the attitude of non-attachment, you can have minimum or no stress. Even then stress would be there, but still it doesn't bother you. As long as the body is there, stress will be there. You can't avoid it. But being spiritual, you will bear it. How much the world in modern times has changed rapidly. Every day the change is very fast, faster than what we imagine. The stupendous advances in various branches of science and technology have opened up new avenues of knowledge, new avenues of enjoyment, and new avenues of human endeavor. At the same time, new problems have also cropped up. New items have become common. For instance, globalization, globality, millennium, management, holistic approach have all become household words. People very freely use all these words. The revolution in communication technology has shrunk the world in an unprecedented manner. Even the concept of time has changed. In today's fast-paced society, with an acute sense of urgency, a 24-hour day measures far less than what it did half a century ago. Then there is increasing air and sound pollution, as also thought pollution, all sorts of pollution. Furthermore, there are job deadlines and work overload, sometimes fear of layoff. All these cause stress. So these things have put greater stress on the modern man. So the modern person is more stressful than in ancient times. In ancient times, though they were also doing job, but still they would contain the stress in a way. Somehow they practice contentment, control the desires, be reasonable, think properly. By these methods, somehow they would control the stress. Of course, there was stress also in ancient times. You know that famous author, Thomas A. Kempis, the author of Presence of God. He says, it is truly a misery to live upon earth. Our very existence on this earth is fraught with various kinds of dangers and difficulties. And all the ancient cultures and religious systems have worked out ways and means of dealing with such existential problems and have symbolized and codified them in the epics and myths. Let us take an example from the episode of Ramayana. Dashrath was faced with a situation which in modern jargon could be termed as acute stress, and he succumbed to it. That was when Rama had to be exiled into forest. Dashrath had tremendous stress. He died. He could not bear the separation of Rama. For Sri Rama too, it was a stressful situation, sudden in its origin and chronic in nature, living in hostile, unfamiliar situations for 14 long years. Is it not stressful? Unexpected. He had to go, he had to live. He had to fulfill the promise given by Dashrath. In order to maintain the dignity of the father, Sri Ramchandra never hesitated to bear the stress. He went. Sita, the consort of Sri Rama, choosing to accompany Rama to the forest voluntarily, she also accepted a physically stressful situation. But she was saved from psychological stress by remaining under the loving protection of Rama. However, if you study the life, you know, she was subjected to extreme physical and psychological stress when she was kidnapped by Ravan and placed under custody, surrounded by hostile guards. Now take the Mahabharata. There also you find many events depicting various types of stresses and the way they were dealt with. These teachings have become part and parcel of Indian culture. While each individual has his or her own way of dealing with stressful situations, these examples from the epics give us guidelines which show how they can be best tackled. Then we also have examples of stress-free personalities. Who are they? Sri Krishna. No stress. Lord Buddha. Jesus. Hanuman. And in most modern times, Swami Vivekananda. Stress-free. They could face all sorts of stressful situations with perfect equanimity. They never lost balance of the mind. Very thoughtful, calm and steady in spite of the hostile external situations and circumstances. Once Swami Vivekananda was invited to deliver a lecture by some cowboys in Detroit in America. It's a famous incident. These cowboys, what did they do? They placed a tub upside down to make a platform and asked Swami Vivekananda to stand on it and deliver his speech. And Swami Vivekananda, without any hesitation, he just stood up on that overturned tub and began to give discourse, began to talk. He was in the middle of speaking. The flow of thoughts is coming through his words. Like music, it is coming. Then the sound of gunshots was heard and bullets whistled. They whizzed past him. Buzz sound. Right and left near the ears. Just brush us. Some cowboys, they were firing just to test him. But Swami Vivekananda remained unperturbed. He never stopped his discourse. He never got down from the tub platform. He never showed any reaction on his face. That is Vivekananda. On another occasion, Swami Vivekananda was crossing a field in England. This is also a very famous incident. With two of his companions, a lady and a gentleman. Swamiji was walking with them, talking to them, giving spiritual ideas. Suddenly, a terrible bull charged at them unexpectedly. Bulls, they are very ferocious. Even to look at them, they are very ferocious and very dangerous. Just like elephants, they trample you. They can do anything. They can kill. So the bull was coming towards them as if charging at them. The gentleman, he ran to safety. But the lady fell down in the line of in the line of the charging bull. In her anxiety to escape, she fell down. Because the stress was too much. She could not bear. She lost balance and she fell down. Swami Vivekananda also could have run to safety, but no. He stood himself firm in front of the lady in order to save the lady from the charging bull. He just stood in front of the lady. And you know this bull, what it did? It came so fast and it stopped suddenly. Nobody knows why. It stopped suddenly, hesitated to go further, then quietly retracted its steps. That is Swami Vivekananda. If he had shown little weakness of stress, probably the bull would have charged at him. Seeing that he was facing it firmly, boldly, courageously, the bull got frightened. There is another instance also in Swami Vivekananda's life. There are many instances. Once he was in Benares, after visiting Shiva's temple, was coming out of the temple, suddenly the monkeys, they are very well-built bodies, monkeys there in Benares, because everybody feeds them. So they become very wild and they don't know how to use their energy. So for no reason, they were chasing Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda thought they would go away, so he began to run in order to avoid them. The moment he began to run, they began to run faster than him and began to come towards him, and they were very ferocious. Suddenly, some old man on the lane, he cried out, "Why do you run? Stop." That's all. It gave him an awakening. Yes, why should I run? Immediately, he was running. Suddenly he stopped and turned towards the monkeys and looked at them, gazed at them firmly, as if he would pounce at them with that posture. Suddenly all the monkeys ran away. Ran away. That is, fear causes stress. Imaginary fear. Of course, in this case, Swami Vivekananda was not afraid of. Only he wanted to avoid the monkeys, so he was running. Anyway, these are all examples to show how some personalities are free from stress. Stress is a state that occurs when people are faced with events they perceive as endangering their physical and psychological well-being. Secondly, unsure of their ability to deal with these events. Thus, we find stress has two components. One is the endangering event or stressor, and secondly, the stress response. These are the two components. The stresses could be of various types. There could be purely physical stresses like lifting a heavy load, walking an unusually long distance, physical illness, exposure to extremes of climate, so on and so forth. There could also be psychological stresses, which could again be acute, like the death of a near and dear ones, attempted murder, robbery, being sacked, divorce, etc. They could be chronic, like daily hassles, job adjustments, conjugal disharmony, chronic financial stringency, so on and so forth. Earthquakes, floods, etc. are natural, and wars are man-made collective stressors. So many reasons. The net result is people will be always in stress and strain. That's why they become degenerated in every way. Stress response could be physiological or psychological. Physiological response is mediated through a structure in the brain called the thalamus. It's a medical term. It stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, which is mainly responsible for the reaction of fight or flight. More of adrenaline is secreted, a chemical. The heart rate, the rate of respiration and blood pressure increase. Secretion of saliva and other digestive secretions are reduced, and blood flow is directed towards the muscles from other organs of the body temporarily. This acute physiological stress reaction lasts only so long as the stressor lasts. It helps the individual to fight or fly to safety. There could be occasions when such a stressful situation persists. In that case, the thalamo-sympathetic response may also get prolonged, and an initially useful protective response may turn into a harmful response leading to diseases like peptic ulcer, hypertension, etc. There was another famous scientist, Hans Zell, the pioneer in evolving the concept of physiological stress, has pointed out that a pair of endocrine glands called adrenals play a very vital role in stress. The adrenals have two parts, medulla and cortex. The adrenal cortex secretes a hormone called cortisol under the stimulus from the pituitary gland, the bandmaster of the endocrine orchestra of the human body. This cortisol plays a very important role in chronic stresses and protects against the harmful effects of long-standing stress. Although these physiological responses can be modified by drugs, they are mostly beyond our control, being mediated and governed through the automatic nervous system and the endocrine system. However, with the help of some of the techniques of yoga, one can, to some extent, reduce the somatic reaction. One such technique is pranayama or rhythmic breathing. Breathing is the only movement which, though governed by the involuntary autonomic nervous system, is also to some extent under our will. We can, by practice, make our breathing far more rhythmic than it is now. Through breath control, we can reduce the physiological response to stress. Asana, or steady posture, as advocated by yoga, also helps to dampen the possibly severe physiological stress response. Sitting in a steady posture without movement for a long time, first of all, trains the voluntary nervous system, and then its effect is also felt on the autonomic nervous system. Well, the religions of the world have evolved ways and means of dealing with stressful situations. Religions are, in essence and by definition, systems of faith. Faith in a superhuman, sustaining and protecting power. Such a faith is one of the most important means of stress management. People with faith can bear much greater stress than people without it. The Sanskrit word for religion is dharma, which is etymologically derived from the root dhri. Dhri means to sustain, which means a sustaining force. Dharma as a righteousness is greatly sustaining. A person who habitually and assiduously practices the moral values and follows a righteous path is less prone to break down under stressful situations or be swayed by threats or temptations. The constant practice of values like truth, ahimsa and brahmacharya makes a person morally tough against stress. There cannot be a better exemplar of this than Mahatma Gandhiji. The etymological meaning of the word ashrama. Ashrama means a stress-free place. That's called ashrama. Shrama means stress, strain, tension or labor. Ashrama means without stress and ashrama. And ashrama with an elongated R, ashrama. A place, state or situation without stress. In this sense, the division of a Hindu's lifespan into 4 stages, which are named as Brahmacharya Ashrama, Grihastha Ashrama, Vaniprastha Ashrama, and Sannyasa Ashrama. It is significant. The growing, fresh, young student can, without much strain, learn various skills, arts, and sciences. He can also likewise accomplish the difficult task of controlling the senses and the mind in that stage of life when he is young. He or she is then supposed to enter the householder's life and discharge his duties towards his family and society. This again must be done in a stress-free manner. Attaining maturity in the middle age, the householder could easily hand over the responsibilities to his offspring and lead a retired, stress-free life as vanaprasthin. That is, a life free of all stress and strain. Finally, with all worldly desires satisfied or sublimated, one can lead a life of renunciation without internal conflicts or tensions. There could be various types of psychological reactions to stresses. If the individual does not consider a situation a threat, there would not be any reaction. This is an important principle which can be made use of in minimizing stress. There is a story of a Zen master who lived in a village. Once a ruthless warrior attacked the country. Everyone fled except the monk. When the invading general asked his soldiers to search the village, they reported him that except for a lone monk, there was not a soul in the village. Then the commander went to the monk and said, "Don't you know that I can run over everything without blinking an eye?" The monk calmly replied, "And I can be run over without my blinking an eye." See, the monk had no stress reaction because he never saw a situation, however grave, as a threat. All religious systems aim at building such equanimous personalities who would not be shaken by the severest of calamities or the greatest of temptations. What's the secret of such a stable, stress-resistant personality? As we have just now said, he or she does not consider any situation a threat. Why? Because they know that they are by nature divine souls who cannot in any way be affected by the modifications which are produced in the body and mind. They cannot die. They can't be hurt. They can't be deprived of anything. The Buddhists, of course, don't believe in a soul. Instead, they believe that there is nothing permanent. Everything is in a flux. Hence, to feel threatened is irrational. A devotee identifies himself with his divine beloved. He accepts with equanimity every situation as presented by his beloved. Or a devotee has firm faith that the Lord will save him. In other words, there could be various spiritual attitudes which can make a person totally stress-free. Another attitude which can make one stress-free is to be mentally prepared for the worst. Swami Vivekananda's father told Vivekananda when he was a young man. His father told him, look, never be surprised at anything. That's the teaching. In this world of Maya, anything is possible. Expectation in itself conduces to stress, because if they are not fulfilled, we feel sorry or depressed. According to laboratory experiments in stress response by modern techniques, it has been proved that if a person has an intimation of the stress situation about to occur, he responds to it in a much better way. The spiritual method trains the mind to accept the inevitability of disease and death, suffering and pain. A second response to stress could be one of positive joy, when it is not considered a threat but a challenge and an opportunity. A person with such an attitude rejoices when stressors are presented. Rather, he seeks such stressful situations so that by responding to them, he might be able to manifest his hidden potentialities. Swami Vivekananda was a great advocate of this attitude. Every stressful situation taken in the right attitude can act as a factor in character building and a means of manifesting the inner potentiality. Indeed, those who from their early childhood have to face prolonged stressful situations get adapted to them better than those who are not exposed to them, and they also become physically and mentally tougher and better adapted to face stress. Herein is the utility of the religious concept of tapas. Various types of tapas or austerities like fasts and night vigils are in fact voluntarily produced, planned and calculated stressful situations. They make the mind and body less stress prone. Never seek an easy life. This is a common teaching of all religions. There is a famous saying from Saint John of the Cross. He says, always seek for preference, not the easiest but the hardest, not the most charming but the most boring, not what pleases but what repels, not what consoles but rather what afflicts, not what saves troubles but what gives us trouble, not the most but the least. These are the words of Saint John of the Cross. One of the commonest techniques prevalent in some form or the other in all religious is meditation. Christian prayer and mass, the Hindu Sandhya, the Jain Samayaka, and the Muslim namaz are all various forms of meditation techniques. The votary is expected to perform these religious acts faithfully with regularity and perseverance for a long time, nay, for the entire life. By these exercises, the practitioner develops values like dedication, consistency, and concentration. They also greatly help in imparting emotional stability to him, and in integrating his personality. Such virtues are extremely useful in dealing with stressful situations. The second group of values advocated by the religions are non-attachment and dispassion. Every situation and its associated action involves a certain amount of uncertainty with regard to its results. If one is too much attached to the result, to the success of the enterprise, one is likely to be frustrated some day or the other. While attachment to an activity and the expectation of a specific result do conduce to the concentration of our energies, but attachment to the result and expectation of it cause undue stress and tension. That's why one is advised to work without attachments and be equanimous in success or failure, victory or defeat, good or bad. Without such equanimity, it is not possible to avoid stress and tension in work. Two more psychological techniques prevalent among the religions are: one, constant remembrance of God; second, emphasizing that the world is unreal or unimportant and is not worth the candle. The practice of constant remembrance of God acts like a buffer between the stressful situation and the individual. We read stories of saints who, when tortured by hostile people, did not feel the stress or react so strongly. In fact, they underrated the situation and easily got over it. Constantly considering the world as unreal, transitory, full of suffering, a place not worth living in or possessing, immunes the mind against events which might disturb it if they are considered real. Swami Yatishwaranandaji, the author of Meditation and Spiritual Life, one of our former vice presidents of Ramakrishna Order, he has advised, don't take the word phantom too seriously. We create our own stress situations by overreacting and by giving too great an importance to situations. There could be unwholesome responses in the form of anxiety, irritability, anger, depression, etc. When the stressor is considered an unwarranted threat, but which the person can cope with, there is irritation or anxiety. But when the person feels that he or she cannot cope with the stressor, there is a feeling of helplessness, depression and apathy. This happens due to lack of faith in oneself or in divine help. Hence, in religious systems, faith in oneself or in God is strongly advocated, and there is no greater advocator of faith in oneself than Swami Vivekananda. If you have tremendous faith, you can overcome any hurdles in the way of life. You can cross over all stress and strain. So, you have to develop self-confidence, you have to develop strong faith, you have to have definite spiritual way of life, and certainly you will be 1,000 times better than the ordinary person in the world who is constantly breaking down under stress and strain. So, spiritual path is a way to overcome the stress and strain that might come in our life. Spiritual path, spiritual ideas, spiritual masters, spiritual teachings, they are the saviors. Hold on to them. As long as we are in bondage, so long we will be in some kind of stress and strain. So, we should get out of this bondage. We must cut the chain and get released. And that is possible only when you hold on to God and constantly remembering. The constant remembrance of God, you will be saved from all unwanted situations. Not only that, you will be able to perform your duties in a right spirit. That's the thing. Everyone has got some kind of duty. And by performing the duty properly, one can definitely go forward in a spiritual path. So that is possible by constantly remembering God. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, all the time, remember me. Just remembering Him wholeheartedly, devotedly, you will be able to cross over all the stress and strain. In order to do that, you have to develop love towards God. In order to develop love, you have to constantly remember Him, constantly think of Him, constantly meditate on Him, constantly be in association with men of spirituality. So that's the way how to tackle the problem of stress. Mother's house, it was on this street floor. The room was used by a concert party. Several young men played on their instruments now and then for the pleasure of the master. It was 8:30 in the evening. Moonlight flooded the streets, the house, and the sky. It was the first day after the full moon. The Brahmani, who had also come, was visiting the drawing room and the inner apartments alternately. Every few minutes she would come to the door of the drawing room and look at the master. Some youngsters from the neighborhood also looked at him through the windows. The people of the locality, young and old, came thronging to see the saint. The younger Naren saw the boys in the street climbing the windows. He said to them, "Why are you here? Get away, go home." The master said tenderly, "Let them stay." Every now and then he chanted, "Hari Om, Hari Om." The floor of the drawing room was covered with a carpet. The young musicians sat on it and sang, "O Keshav, bestow thy grace upon thy luckless servants here. O Keshav, who dost delight to roam Vrindavan's glades and groves." Master said, "Ah, how sweet the music is, how melodious the violin is, how good the accompaniments are," pointing to a boy. He and the flutist seemed to be a nice pair. The orchestra went on playing. After it was over, Sri Ramakrishna said joyfully, "It is very fine indeed." Pointing to a young man, he said, "He seems to know how to play every instrument." He said to him, "They are all good people." After the concert, the young musician said to the devotees, "We should like to hear some of you sing." The Brahmani stood near the door. She said, "None of them knows how to sing. Perhaps Mohin Babu can sing, but he will not sing before the master." Young man, "Why? I can sing even before my father." The younger Naren said laughingly, "But he has not yet advanced that far." All laughed. A few minutes later, the Brahmani said to Sri Ramakrishna, "Please come inside." Master, "Why?" Brahmani, "The refreshments are served there. Please come." Master, "Why not bring them here?" Brahmani, "Ganu's mother requests you to bless the room with the dust of your feet, then the room will be turned into Benares, and anyone dying in it will have no trouble hereafter. Sri Ramakrishna went inside, accompanied by the Brahmani and the young men of the family. The devotees were strolling outside in the moonlight. M and Binode were pacing the street south of the house and recalling the various incidents in the life of their beloved master. We shall stop here. Any questions about controlling stresses or overcoming stresses? Because you know better than what I know. Anyway, yeah, but all the points I have clarified there. One is through drugs, people are trying to control the stress, but it has got temporary effect. They can't do it really speaking, but temporarily they feel they are stress relieved. But the real way of tackling the stress is through spiritual way. That's the purpose of my talk, taking this subject, tackling the stresses in a spiritual way. That is, the more and more if you think of the reality and the divine potentiality and reason out in a reasonable way the cause of these stresses, we should be able to be indifferent or not give much attention to the stresses that might come in course of your life. But that is possible only when you strengthen your spiritual life. That means vigorous doing japa, meditation, prayers, they are all really very useful. And that is the purpose of retreats. Many people I met with and talked with individually also, they have expressed, even though they come for 2 or 3 days for the retreat program, the very fact that they have come out of their home setup to entirely different atmosphere, totally different atmosphere. In a way, the mind is shifted, so to say, from one level to another, totally different level. So, a person feels tremendous change in his thinking, and that way he feels he is blessed, and he feels to come again and again to make use of that opportunity. So that's the way of healing the problems, grievances, worries, all these things can be faced without much stress if the person tries to attend these retreats and make use of the teachings given out there, and living in that entirely different atmosphere, spiritual atmosphere, that gives tremendous relief. So, the more and more you think of reality, the more and more you read our scriptures, Upanishads, the nature of the indwelling spirit, and so on, it gives tremendous strength. The more you build up your spiritual strength, the more you are able to face any stress in the life. That's all. But it takes time. All through so many births, you have built up lots of stress in the mind. Suddenly you have to kick them out. Instead of you being kicking them out, they kick you out of stress. out of stress. Because stress have become powerful. They're activated. They act like a momentum, force of momentum. They just push you down. So you have to build up your spiritual personality. That's the important point which I am telling. Sri Krishna, Ramakrishna's teachings, gospel teachings, is to build up the spiritual personality. Build up. So always feel you are the part and parcel of the divine. That feeling itself should solve the problems. Any question, Manjusha? Sanchit? Professor Ajay? All right. We had enjoyed our Brahmarupan retreat in the month of May in Ganges. Now next month we are having another very important retreat coming up in Ganges. Last weekend of June, 27th to 29th, Friday through Sunday. The theme of the retreat is Bhajan and Bhakti. So we will give you an idea how Bhajan and Bhakti can remove all your stress from your system. You will be wondering, where all the stress gone? It's gone somewhere. It has left you and gone to occupy somebody else. And it's really wonderful to attend that retreat. As I said, there are some really very serious, sincere aspirants who don't want to miss any retreat. One example, one Tarik Datta coming from New York is already sent and registered. Yesterday I saw. Coming for Bhajan Bhakti retreat in Ganges. He's a doctor. Always is on a call. Still he doesn't want to miss. He told me long back, Swamiji, give the retreat program for the whole year. We will plan and come. I can have a substitute for my place and I can come. And he's doing that. He's doing that. Anyway, these are all spiritual classes for you. Spiritual classes. You need education. Don't you think so? Spiritual education, most important, most essential, which we are lacking. So, spiritual education given in a proper way. That's important. Very nicely, in an organized way, systematic way, in an authentic way, without fanaticism. Completely, with full of love and thinking about the welfare of the humanity. So, try to attend these retreats. It will help you a lot. I am sure. I will be also going there. I am also attending all the retreats now. I myself have found the great advantage in being with the company of the devotees. That's the amazing part. Lord says in the Bhagavad, Krishna says, he loves to be with the devotees. Krishna's dwelling place is in the drawing room of the devotees. So, let us have that feeling. Make use of the ashrama nicely. It is meant for you. Meant for you. Make up your life, build up your life, be spiritual, and be peaceful. That's the way. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself, O self drowned deep in the waves of His bliss. tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name, that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or enemy. The playthings of lust or the ties of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy. May all be free from disease. May all realize what is good. May none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous reign tranquility. May the tranquil be free from bonds. May the freed make others free. May good betide all people. May the sovereign righteously rule the earth. May all beings ever attain what is good. May the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time. May the earth be blessed with crops. May all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For, he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.